Love this whole thing. Tea maker. There we go. Hi, everybody. Moment to settle in. Join. Okay, so I learned a new something the other day, and I absolutely had to try it, and my curiosity is still piqued, and I'm very much excited to delve into it more again in the future. So, I learned the other day that nutmeg has psychedelic properties if taken in large quantities. Larger quantities. Kind of gross, to be honest, and the potion concoction of it at the potency that I had, it was pretty nasty, to be honest. And yeah, I had to try it. So the recipe is 1 teaspoon nutmeg, 1 teaspoon cloves, and 1 teaspoon cinnamon. And the disclaimer on this is from what I read, do do not take all of what it is that you make. I put it together with tea, and so I know that as long as there's, say, 25% left of the tea that I made, that I've not consumed a toxic amount of nutmeg. There's a lot of disclaimers, there's a lot of warnings that people can get. Nutmeg toxicity, which is your basic nausea, diarrhea, and stomach pains or cramps. Kind of the same thing that happens if you eat something that you're really not supposed to, or too much of it. And it's said, what made this interesting to me is not only that it's legal and stuff that you can buy cheap at, any store, it's said to, in the right dosage, be the same as a MDMA or LSD experience. And I haven't experienced either of those, so this really piqued my interest. So last night I made a pot of tea. I shared it in the group, and quite a few people were interested in seeing how my experience went with it, as well as a few of you joined me with some nutmeg tea, which I think is beautiful as long as everybody's taking care not to take too much. I made it pretty potent and not too much water. I think if I would have actually done what I was taking in a shot glass in an actual teacup and diluted the rest of it, maybe added some sugar, it would have tasted really much more appealing than how it was. And I felt the effects kicking in almost exactly 2 hours. And they stated when I read this that it takes 3 hours for the effects to kick in, and they can last up to 2 days, which I thought was really interesting. And sorry, lost my thought. Something that was important, right? The nutmeg. It's important to understand that if you have taken too much nutmeg, you will know within 20 to 30 minutes you'll start to feel sick, nauseous, vomit, diarrhea. So if you are taking the nutmeg potion. Sorry, I don't have a better phrasing for it than that. Medicine nutmeg experience. And you hit that 3 hour mark and you don't have any side effects, then you're good. From my experience, anyway. The only side effect that I had noted was my mouth was pretty dry and I felt pretty dehydrated during and when I woke up this morning. So next time it's going to be a water regimen throughout the hours that I'm taking it. I wasn't able to go deep enough to have a full experience. I did hit that peak, however, where you feel that click in, that kind of, that moment, that head fuzzy, kind of feeling that need for a nap. And yeah, I stayed active for a while, but at the same time, I took it at bedtime. And I had I'd say vibrant dreams. They weren't specifically lucid. They did portray a subconscious element to areas that need to heal. So I do feel that there were psychedelic properties in the messages. And from there, my next attempt, I'm going to wait, I'd say 3 days before I do this again, just to let any nutmeg toxins or anything that's in my system clear out. Probably do like a herbal cleanse over the next few days as well to help it before I take another shot at this. And next time I decided I'm going to take double what I took the first time because I know that I can do the amount out of which the tea that I made I drank and I came out with no side effects and I felt that I was on to something there. So we're going to double it and I'll keep you updated and share my experiences with you through that. Next on the agenda came to my attention after speaking to one of the group members who recently underwent a bad trip that not a lot of information is really pushed out there, especially if you are looking at it from a medicinal point of view. No one really talks about the higher dosages, and nobody really talks about what happens when you start living a very emotional nightmare during this moment that's supposed to be peaceful, euphoric, happy, calming. I mean, when done through a ritual setting, I personally really feel that relaxation piece. And then it can bridge into yoga because your body's just stretchy, it's bendy because you're just all relaxed and all marshmallowy on the inside. But at the same time, you're awake and, you know, aware, raw awareness on the outside and pretty energized. And then it's accompanied by the good mood swings. And yeah, I'm thinking through the different things that I've heard about people having bad trips. And I want to make sure that everybody watching is on the same page going forward so that you have kind of a 101 guide of what to do if you are experiencing a bad trip. The preference here is before you trip before you do anything. You have to get your mind around this may go south. The biggest element to it is the accepting and not fearing it. It's one of those things that if you are expecting it and then it becomes a fear because you know it can happen, then it's on your mind that it's going to happen. And when those entheogenic properties kick in, that fear then becomes your intention, somewhat accidentally. One thing that made, I think, the biggest difference for my experiences is having grown up studying and frankly being on the opposite side of the war here. I was actually raised and programmed through general society and media propaganda, healthcare bullshit, that, these psychedelics are really bad. It's the equivalent to people who, yeah, they just put that spin on it that you're willing to mug anybody you can to get your fix, and they really lump it in with opiates and heroin addictions and the really nasty shit that does fuck you up. And mainstream media makes people believe that things like magic mushrooms and LSD and pretty much any mind altering drug or substance has these same horrible negative effects as some of the ones that are just renowned and known for being bad for you, for killing you. And the fact that one or two have that capability, and you see this fractal with the media and with the truckers and with all the peaceful protesters, just because 1 or 2% has the potential to be really, really nasty, somehow the rest of the narrative all get tied into the same stigma. And it took a little bit of convincing on my end to be where I am and to be so into the experiences that you get from using plant medicine. And one thing that I've always taken with me that helped is being on the other side. You hear the horror stories, the worst of the worst. You hear about people who, fuck, PCP. There was some football player who got high on PCP, and when he woke up or came back from his trip, he was in the middle of a football field. He had killed his girlfriend and eaten her intestines. I really hope that wasn't the first date. And you hear about these things and you become aware that if used improperly, if not given the right respect, that mind altering drugs really can have negative outcomes. And hearing the stories as I went through my first experience with, let's go with DMT, and I was looking at the person beside me, and the pores in their face opened up and became little black holes emitting like this black vapor. And it looked really, really sinister and evil. And it looked like the kind of things that you'd watch on a movie. And it was demonstrated to me through my visualization, very much like watching a movie. And the beautiful thing is, having understood that, yes, when you are having these chemicals in your blood and in your body chemistry, you can experience these hallucin the hallucin I really can't say it. Hallucinations, sorry. What's the other one? Meth. People who are on meth hallucinate that they have bugs crawling under their skin, and they actually think it's real, so they end up picking, and you'll see they always have these scabs all over them from trying to pick out these bugs under their skin. And for me, it was really just understanding the different stories that people have expressed and recognizing that when I'm seeing it as well, when I looked at my hand and I could see every pore on my skin and things moving underneath my skin, I understood that this is just part of the experience and that you are very consciously aware that what you are seeing is not real. This aspect has always helped me when things get hard. Sometimes it's a bit different and it's deeper than visually seeing something that looks unpleasant, because usually when you recognize it, you can even change or watch how what you're seeing changes based off what you're thinking. If you think it's something beautiful, it will turn into something beautiful. Realistically, if you're noticing that you're hallucinating, you usually can look at something and just decide what it is that you want to see or what you want it to be doing. Divination then plays into a factor where you're starting to translate and analyze what it is that you're seeing and how it's a message and how it depicts what's going on in your subconscious. Understanding that it's not real gives that safety harness. The next element to it is the emotions, because those are a little bit different. If you see something and you're not really emotionally responding to it, it's easy to change to something happy because you're still in control of picking what happiness is at that point. There's the next level, from my experience, deeper, where you get into the emotional bad trips, which is where you start to grieve and you have let yourself feel those fears. And there's something in it that's healing that makes you want to choose to go down that path. As I've experienced it, when you go down these paths, one thing that comes to mind is Ashley saying that you have to feel it to free it. Having affirmations going into an experience can also help as well, because if you repeat that back to you at the moment, you have to feel it to free it, then you're in the state of becoming the observer. And you're then conscious to know that what you're feeling can pass in 90 seconds. Do you want to let it go? And sometimes we feel that there's just something in it. Sometimes, and the trick is, when you're really doing the healing, is you are intentionally going through these experiences and exploring them and searching and looking for answers. Sometimes this will happen on its own, as in one case that I was talking to somebody about earlier, and their element of it was forgiveness. They were able to forgive the people that have really hurt them, and it wasn't a conscious choice. Their body was literally just doing it on their own, and then on its own, and then letting this person's conscious catch up to them. Our body, it is its own living entity, and it kind of does its own thing all the time. It's always thinking, it's always breathing, it's always living, it's always shifting and wants comfort and fidgeting, and yeah, sometimes it lacks in focus, and the rest of it is up to you. And sometimes the body will just tell you enough is enough, that you need to get over something. And it will make you go through that and get over it, whether you want to or you're ready to or not. It's, been said by other people talking about this, that there is no such thing as a bad trip. I really don't like the term trip. I'd rather call it an experience. There is no such thing as a bad experience, because you come out of it with the understanding that this is an area that has just healed. It requires more healing, or you'll have been given the instructions to what you need to do to heal it. Forgiveness can be an instruction that if you don't follow, you're still going to be set into bouts of depression or bouts of anxiety or something that will physically trigger you into still having those negative emotional responses in situations, instead of being able to go into a situation confidently that you can handle it and you are a new person going forward. There elements to navigating a bad trip. So let's just kind of recap what we've been over so far. Is that when you do the research and you know what to expect, and you go into an experience with the understanding that something bad can go wrong, it makes a really big difference when you're in it and you come to that fork in the road, because you recognize it, because sometimes you may even be looking for it. And the moment you start to feel that emotional shift, that moment you start to notice that you are ruminating on something that might not be what you want to be thinking about. If it is your intention to explore it, that will be a different talk for a different day. But if your intention, I guess giving an example is going to be probably the best way here. Your intention is to focus on building social connections with people, because, say, you're trying to heal anxiety from being around crowds or meeting new people, self esteem issues, and your whole intention is about being friendly and meeting people, and you find that you are ruminating that somebody just screwed you over financially and you just lost a bunch of money, and you really don't want to trust anybody because trust costs money and you don't have money to spend on trust, and then you end up catching yourself at some point when our thoughts start to snowball like that. And if you notice that you're thinking about money when your whole aspect is around, supposed to be around making friends, A, you've just caught yourself. B, you can, and this is the more important part of what I'm trying to say here, is you can choose to navigate where it is that you want to refocus your thoughts. And I'm going to note this to make sure I lead back around to it. your intention does not stop when your experience has started. It is something that it is really recommended to go back to again and again and again. And the kind of experiences that I have is, yeah, they'll kind of jut off into one storyline and narrative, and I'll get something out of it and feel really good. And then I'll collect my thoughts and be like, I got off topic. I want to focus on this. And then you'll go down another rabbit hole. And then you'll notice, okay, I see the chain of events, but I got a little off topic. Let's refocus. We're going to focus on social connections being friendly. Making sure that as often as you can redirect your thoughts back to your original intention. And this is why it's so important. One of the reasons why it's so important to have an intention in the first place. Because if you don't have anything that you're gaining to focus on or anything that you can redirect your thoughts back to, once they start to snowball, they're going to go where the fuck they want. They're going to go to what you know you don't even want to talk about before you can even ask for help. It's things that you don't even want to acknowledge exist to yourself. Those are what's going to get dragged up. And if you're not ready for it, it's going to be really hard to navigate your way through. And sometimes your thoughts snowball and you don't come out of it. You leave the experience feeling really, really shitty and really tired. And yeah, messaging us saying something went wrong, what happened. So the next aspect that's really important is when you, and that was actually a good narrative that I came up with there off the top of my head, is in the story that I told, the person had trust issues with social situations because people have stabbed them in the back and taken their money before. So the trust issues are then connected to money. So you don't actually need to heal your social anxiety, you need to heal financial issues. And usually, when you heal the one area, you see it reflect in the other areas. Because when you heal your financial issue, you'll then have a higher amount of respect and appreciation for yourself and your money to obviously protect it from giving it to somebody who's going to waste it or take it, whatever scenario you want to play out in your head for this one. You also then see how they're separate and how the one area being healed. I'm reminded of that thing where you gotta try to explain it to a 5-year old so everybody understands it equally. You see that because the financial issue was something to be healed within you, it is not the other person's fault that you don't trust them. And when you acknowledge, and this is that whole aspect of taking responsibility, healing ourselves and for our own actions, because it stops playing on the other person. When you trust yourself with your finances, it won't matter how you view somebody else with your money. You will then likely be noticing how they are disrespecting their money. And then you can help them in the same way you helped yourself. I'm trying to make this as simple and concise as I can to help everybody be on the same page here. And you're also dealing with the human brain. and memories and emotions and the psyche in general, which is complicated and delicate at the same time. Take a page, literally, I will take a page from the psychedelic plant encyclopedia that we're reading, and it's stated as basic 101 knowledge when you get into the entheogens and the plant medicine is the three most important aspects of a trip or ritual are setting, and intention. So your set, it is worded, is your emotional state to begin with, what you are set to. Sometimes this is the harder one to change. It's easier to change your setting. Setting is pretty basic. You put on some nice music. You can choose, are you inside, are you outside? Would you like lights on, lights off? Would you like to be with people? Would you like to be alone? The setting definitely affects how you are set emotionally. For example, if you are at a party with 20 people and it might be all really decked out with the glowy neon lights and the psychedelic colors, and if somebody offers you, do you want to do a heroic dose right now? Because of that setting, what you are set to on the inside, you're going to get a very different experience than if you are in a forest, isolated, alone, sitting under a tree. Now, sometimes we can't exactly change our set. Sometimes it's how we're set, which is why we're taking the trip in the first place. Often we are helping people with depression, anxiety, loss, grief, addictions, and anger issues, you name it. And you can't just decide you're going to feel better because you miss your child. That's not exactly something that's a turn brown upside down. Sometimes you can't just feel better knowing that you have mushrooms that say you're going through a bankruptcy or a breakup. And as I kind of said, this is going to be the first fork in the road for navigating a negative trip, is doing that self-analysis and understanding where you're at. The truth is, if there's something on your mind that is replaying itself in your head, that's going to be your intention. That's going to be what you cycle back to whenever your mind gets a reprieve during the enlightenment. So if you are really grieving a loss, then from what I have experienced, whichever pathway your mind goes down, you're going to reset it back to that one point of loss and grief. And then you'll go down a rabbit hole and you may even start to feel better. But if you can't control the intention that's controlling your emotions, you're going to loop back to not feeling the greatest. Again and again and again until you really get a grip on being able to heal it. And that's not something that can just happen. In saying that, yes, it can just happen. And sometimes people are really grateful when it does, but it's not something that is going to be 100% guaranteed thing. These aren't one pills fix all. This is healing. This is growing. This is reaching a different state of how we see life, how we come to understand the existence of ourselves and others, and the sequence of events that play out that create relationships, that create life, that create economy. Now, these are some of the things that my mind has gone through on these experiences, and they can be very deep and they can be rather hard to explain to people, especially if you come from a side of closed mindedness and unwillingness to understand the benefits to these medicines. The other aspect, and this is more, I would say, your average experience, is if you get yourself to the point you're feeling pretty good, you know what your intention is, and there's nothing really playing on your mind that you're aware of. That's going to be the next layer of healing that you go through. And if you can navigate what's immediately on your mind and you can set it back to having that intention of what you want to get out of it, and then if you notice your subconscious, or let's word it, your unconscious is taking you down a different rabbit hole, and you realize, hey, I don't want to go here. This is unpleasant. I'm not feeling well. But you make some great points. We'll get back to you on a different date. And you cycle back to your intention. I really want to focus on being a social butterfly. And then you get the parts of yourself that you don't know that you know. The parts of memory that you have suppressed. Things from your childhood that will pop into your head like it's brand new and you knew it the whole time. But it's really weird because you forgot about it and you haven't thought about it for like 22 years, but now it's just prominently on your mind. That's when you get to heal. To be honest, that's my experience with it. You can heal these, unconscious and subconscious aspects. And being aware of what your intention is to begin with. And as long as you can keep refocusing, you get moments of lucidity, you get moments of clarity where you kind of don't feel like you're under the experience anymore. As it starts to waver, you'll get, yeah, lucid or sober moments. And if you're me, I actually think the trip is over. And then about 10 minutes later, 20 minutes later, I'm back into it with something different. And as long as you use your moments of lucidity to analyze, did I like what I just felt? Do I like how I feel right now? No? Okay, I want something better. The other thing that's important is keep an eye on the clock. Know the basics that something like psilocybin will last at least 4 hours. With my experience, I've noticed it was really worn off after about 6 to 8. Because, like I said, I would get moments of sober and then go back in, and then longer moments of sober and go back in, and then longer moments, and you really think you're done, and then you go back in. And as you experience and as you experiment with this, make sure that you're keeping track of what your tolerances are. I know for a fact that only on high doses do I notice anything after 20 minutes. I know for a fact that I peak at exactly the 2 hour mark. And I know to expect that things for me can last up to 8 hours. That's just me and my body type. So, especially if I'll give you an example, one trip that I had, I was only about 3 hours in. It hit that 2 hour mark, and the 3, 4 hours in, God, I didn't come out of it. But I had to remind myself, I know that I still got some more. There's still more time to refocus and make this experience a really good one. And it really is that positive mindset of always knowing that no matter what you feel, you can learn from it and you can make it better. I remember I came out of my first heroic dose feeling god fucking awful. Now, for me, it was because I did the majority of the hours in a bathtub with my knuckle kinked, so I will, like, the next morning have the worst fucking headache. And it was a hard trip. It was a to be continued trip. It was a we're not done yet, come back later. And I left feeling disappointed because I thought I was supposed to come out feeling reborn, not the reality to it was that I was looking for the easy way. And the revelation that I went through showed me that no, to succeed going forward, get what you need, get the life that you want, it's not going to be comfy, cozy, cushy. It's going to take effort. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be really fucking hard. Or the alternative is you can take the easy life, but you'll never actually have what you want. It wasn't the answer that I wanted, but it was the answer that I got. And I woke up the next day knowing that everything had just been upgraded to being very realistic, and that I had to take everything very seriously from that point on. And that was the growth. The experiences can range so different. I've had, I would say, almost as deep as a heroic dose experience through cannabis, through certain types of cannabis. And I've also taken a lot of mushrooms and come out of it not always feeling anything really. Not like I really went that deep. And the other aspect that we tell people is you have to be open. And the trick to how these medicines work with us is they help us have that intention and keep it. Coffee, in and of itself, is a psychedelic, and I've been telling people for years I don't do this anymore, but I took a lot of comfort from drinking coffee before bed and drinking coffee before I go to sleep. And nobody ever understood how that worked. And the fact is, my intention was I'm going to go to sleep now. And the psychedelic properties in the caffeine made it so that that was my intention. I'm going to sleep now, and it would actually aid me with relaxing and feeling comfy, cozy, and just ready to curl up and go to bed. The fact is, if I would make a coffee at night before bed, I usually wouldn't actually drink it. I'd take a few sips and 70% of it would still be there in the morning. Then I don't have to make it, right? And when I understood the fact of how it helped with the intention of sleeping, it just made things so much easier for me going forward with other plant medicines because I really got how that worked. And it's designed to not always follow the basic rules of science. Sometimes things that are supposed to make you sleepy will get you really cranked. Sometimes things that are supposed to keep you really up and on beat will make you feel really like here's one we were talking about with Juliana from way back in the day. Hi Juliana, because I know you usually watch these. And we were talking about that heavy feeling, that gravity when you experience it and you just get slow and sluggish and just takes effort. And this is something that you can experience with psilocybin. And for some people, it makes you really pumped and really like, let's do yoga and feel really good and high energy. And sometimes the same person can experience this really heavy weight, the world on their shoulders, and all the responsibilities, and just too much negative energy weighing you down. Okay, fun fact, this is another trip of mine. I actually had to imagine that I was taking off this giant backpack, and I felt ridiculous doing it. But the visualization of the intention that I feel this weight behind me, I don't want to feel it anymore, so I'm going to play mime and charades and pretend like I'm falling out from underneath it. And you do feel lighter because there's just that certain point where your brain just doesn't 100% understand what's real and what's not. And this is, yeah, this is where the healing comes in. Especially if, and this is one of my favorites, to pre record positive affirmations to yourself and have an experience. Do a trick with it. Because you're then telling your brain these positive, beautiful things, and when it's under this hypnotic threshold, it doesn't know the difference. You can tell yourself that you're healed, you don't suffer pain anymore. You can tell yourself that your body's just fixed. Make it short and concise, and your brain will just follow. Because, but it must be true because I just experienced it, and then you'll start to experience it. And the truth is, you can do this without any psychedelic properties as well. The psychedelics help your body bridge that gap, especially of imagination and especially of being able to feel it in our core, what's possible. Let's take a moment to talk about how we decide our intentions. So, our intentions definitely going to categorize the ones that I can think of and try to get like all the different types that I can think of. For example, there's different types. You can intend that you're going to do something physically. You are going to go to sleep. You are going to do yoga. You are going to write a letter. You are going to do art. You have you are going to do. You can decide that you are going to plan. So if you want to, say, make a vacation plan and you need some insight, and that's your intention. You can go through it and then you'll get ideas and creative revelations around where to look. You will just end up on this pathway of following the rabbit hole, and it will lead you somewhere, and you won't entirely understand how it is that you got to exactly what you were looking for, but you'll find what it is that you're looking for. You'll figure out a route, you'll figure out an airline, and you'll probably find something on sale, and you'll be able to plan this perfect vacation within a few hours of um, having this experience, depending on the dosage as well. I wouldn't exactly go for a heroic dose and then try to plan for retirement, although maybe, and you can, what other intentions do we have? Heal. You can decide that there's an area of your life that you need to heal, but you don't know how. You don't even know where to start. So you're just like, I want insight. I want to know where to start. And you'll have these creative awakenings and you'll realize where to start. Sometimes you will be in a position where you're ready to heal and you will be like, I am sick of having flashbacks from certain moments of my life. I don't want this to affect my mind subconsciously anymore. I'm going to fix this, heal it. And you'll go into your trip, and with a certain amount of conscious focus, you can navigate through stuff like that. Sometimes it isn't something that you really want to dive into without preparation. Depends. Let's see, other intentions. Other intentions. Sometimes you will ask what's missing, and what's missing to a lot of people, I'm just looking out the window now and thinking of nature deficit disorder, is something that people are missing. People come to us a lot. They got insomnia, got anxiety, and their anxiety is keeping them up all night and giving them insomnia, and then they need all this caffeine during the day to accomplish their day and make it to bedtime, but then at bedtime they can't sleep. And, the intention of what's missing will show you basic things like you are having too much technology, you are having too much caffeine, you might be eating really, really poorly. And that's why you're up all night with indigestion. These moments of clarity can be really common sense sometimes. Sometimes it goes a lot deeper. Take a look here. Yeah, I got 5 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. So let's remind everybody that when you're navigating a trip, that what you are seeing is not real. If you take the time to plan out your trip, your experience, your ritual, you have a safe setting, and you put the effort in to set yourself emotionally, and you have your intention, you really should have the conscious awareness that you are seeing things that aren't there. You will remember that you are having an experience. and that what you are seeing is simply reflecting what you are feeling. What you are feeling is very real, and what you are visually seeing is not. I think for a few minutes I want to do one more. Reiki. Reiki and a singing bowl for you guys today. And somebody else make a Reiki request. So, take a minute, take a nice deep breath. Hey, buddy. You want to come say hi? Hi. I'm just doing some Reiki for the people. Some good energy. Yeah, buddy. Yes, you do. I got 3 minutes. Can you be patient for 3 minutes? I'm excited. He's very excited. Deep breath. Imagine you are inhaling purifying white light. You are surrounded by white light. Every muscle is relaxed by it, healed by it. You absorb every fiber of it. If you have a specific injury or area that's bothering you, imagine that it is illuminated, surrounded, infused with white, purifying light. Another trick that I always like to use is that when you are healing for yourself, keep the balance. It works best to visualize that everybody else that you know is healing as well. And then that way everybody heals together. If you have found what you heard here today useful, please share it with a friend, share it with a family member, somebody that you know can benefit from what it is that we do. Insomnia is a big topic that we get, and navigating negative trips is also a common one. So if you know anybody has ever had a bad trip, if you know anybody who happens to be suffering from insomnia, send them our way. Get you all fixed up. Thanks for joining us, guys. See y'all next week.